we're going to begin. Find your way into a seated position and just take a little time with your alignment and finding your center of gravity, feeling your sitting bones connecting with the floor or with props if you're using props. And when you feel that your shoulders are sitting back and your chest is lifting and spreading, bring your hands together in front of your heart and close your eyes, looking away from your brain. And just starting to drop into a state of presence. Observing your breath. Observing any sensations felt within or perceived around you. I'm offering a theme of kind of relating to a sense of having enough, being enough, as we already are this week, which forward bending really lends itself to. These are quieting poses. They're nourishing to the nervous system. They're helpful with the sustaining of presence. Just an idea that we are already whole. We already have everything we need. And that it's okay to just rest and exist and be in our poses rather than striving for more intellectual gain, spiritual gain, physical gain. Just to really let these poses hold you today. And to feel the quieting effects that come with that. The really joyful, blissful effects that come with a state of radical acceptance, just right where you are, being perfect. As you're ready, bowing toward your heart. Letting your hands release down, and when you're ready, lift your head. Let your eyes gently open, and welcome. So you'll just need a couple of blankets and blocks today. We're going to start in child's pose. If you need any supports for that pose, of course, you're going to use whatever makes that pose more comfortable for you. And make sure that you have your knees open wide enough that your torso has the best chance of coming down nice and low. Feel free to use your hands for support under your head, or else you're going to stack your fists, or else you're going to extend your arms. And try to take your sitting bones as far back as they go toward the heels. And attempt to gently direct your tailbone down toward the floor, just to encourage the spine to lengthen out. And just showing up as fully as you can for the experience of your child's pose this morning. Watching the breath fill in and empty out. Noticing where the sensation is specifically in this pose. Feeling maybe some leftovers from your weekend showing up here, maybe some yard work or other activities that the body is still kind of holding on to. So we're going to take the pose sideways, parshva, sideways. So just kind of bringing your head up and walking your hands to the right. You might need to lift your torso up a little bit so that you can attempt to center yourself above the right thigh. And of course, the head won't probably want to come down as low here. So just feel free to let the head hang, kind of start to fall through the space between the arms. And just feel how this opens the left side body. Your spine is getting a little movement to the side. Feel free to walk the hands farther to the right as you know, you get that cue that you want to go further, that your body is ready for more. When you're ready, you're going to walk back to center and just continue moving the hands over to the left. Try to center yourself again over the left thigh. Finding that first edge where there's enough going on physically that the mind is kind of occupied by that. And as you need more, continuing moving your hands to the left. And start to move yourself back to center. And you're going to rise up into a table pose and make sure the knees come back in a little bit closer so they're under the hips. We'll start to wake up the spine with cat and cow actions. So on an exhalation, rounding the spine, taking the chin toward the chest and pointing the tailbone down. Inhale and arch your back. And try to do this slowly enough that you have kind of a fluidity. You're finding some fluidity in the movement. You might need to make it slower. You might need to make it a little bit lessened with the range of motion. And connect your movements with your breath. The exhale to round into the cat tilt. The inhale to arch into the cow tilt. And see if you can pay special attention to where along the spine there's extra sensation this morning. Maybe it's around the spine. Notice what's happening as you repeat the cat and cow. If there's a difference, is it starting to change a little bit or are things starting to loosen? And the next time you move into cat or cow, you can just kind of shift your way back to a neutral position. And we'll come into the kidney squeeze. So we're going to be moving the hips from side to side, taking a big breath in here, and then exhale, pushing your hips to the right as you look to the left. And just hold it there. Just kind of leaning heavily to the right, feeling the outer right hip start to elongate, start to talk to you a little bit. Just bring a little bit of head movement in, circle your chin around and start to mobilize your neck. And then you can roll your hips in the other direction. You're looking toward the right hip now, so that we're completing the lateral movement right up the chain of the spine all the way to the brainstem. And here, just kind of bringing a nodding motion of the chin, moving in and then moving out. Just waking up the neck a little bit. Taking some deep breaths, unpacking tension that's kind of glued up in your outer left hip space. Getting a little massage to the right kidney organ. And then you're going to slowly bring it back to center. And we'll kind of tie those movements together, the cat, cow, and the kidney. So push your hips to the right. Arch your back through center. This is cow tilt. Roll your hips to the left. And then round up through center, the cat. So it's as if you're inside of a side turned jar, scraping it out with your body. And again, looking more for fluidity here than how quickly you're doing it, than how giant your range of motion is. Really just looking for the smoothness. So that might mean it has to slow down or become a little smaller. And you're traveling in one direction right now. So in a moment, you're just going to kind of pause and switch direction. So find your way into the second direction. And you might feel things showing up here that didn't show up in the first direction. So staying present to this here and now experience. And now you're going to slow it down and bring yourself back to neutral spine, extending your left leg back with toes tucked under. So you're going to extend that leg and really press back into the ball mounds of the left foot. And here getting a nice stretch to your calf muscle, hopefully. And I find that I get a deeper stretch here when I extend the leg back than when I do in, let's say, downward facing dog. So just giving a few breaths of special attention to your left calf muscle. You can keep your tailbone curling down into the body toward the floor. And you might be able to pressurize your hands enough to hover and float the right knee just for a little bit of a stronger pose, a little bit more of a strengthening pose. And if you did float the right knee, just place it again and place your left knee back underneath your hip and extend the right foot back. Get a nice amount of the toes curling under, press back into the ball mounds of the right foot, and just start to activate that stretch in your right calf muscle. Keep the tailbone moving toward the front body. And again, if you want to take it a step farther, you could pressurize your hands enough that you can float your left knee. If you did float the knee, go ahead and place it again. Place your right knee, preparing for downward facing dog. Make sure you have a good position with hands and knees, and then take the toes underneath. And on an exhale, extend your legs. Attempting to move your chest toward your thighs. Take the whole front side of both legs and press them toward the back side of both legs. And keeping your sitting bones curling up to the ceiling, draw the heels gently down and widen the backs of your knees. Just try to press your shoulder blades in toward the chest. And imagine you have to hold pencils in your hip creases. So keep hinging at the hips. On an inhale, move forward and place your right knee. Okay. Lift your left leg directly up so that it's level with the floor. Extend your right arm and hold your sunbird position with the palm turned up. So right knee is kneeling, left leg is extended and hovering over the floor. Right arm is extended. Okay, higher octane breath here, warming pose, so welcoming the warmth into the body. Good. Now place your right hand and see if you can come into a kneeling version of half moon, left hand to the left hip, turning your chest to the left, and then maybe taking the top arm up. Now you're going to lower the left leg down, resting the foot, the inner edge of the foot on the floor. Turn your arm so the palm faces toward the head side and align the arm with the ear, creating a sort of side angle pose. And just feeling the left side body waking up, elongating, activating. And now we're going to sweep that left arm into a thread the needle position. So take your left knee back underneath your left hip and take the left arm through the space of the right limbs, sliding your right hand forward. Rolling your weight to the left to just start to welcome space and breath into your left shoulder blade area. where a lot of us get some, I call them cobwebs. We get some stickiness in the scapula, around the scapula, under the scapula. And just 3 more waves of deep breath. And stepping that right hand closer to your body, inhale the left arm out of position, and we're going to set up for the second side of that sequence, from the table pose into downward facing dog. So as you're ready, exhale and extend your legs. Try to roll the inner knees back and compact the outer knees in toward midline. Scooping the belly toward the lower back. On an in-breath, shifting your weight forward to place the left knee. Float your right leg up without the hip rising, so keep your hips level, sunbird. Extend your left arm and turn the left palm up. Invite the left shoulder back into the torso. Try to shoot a nice energetic laser beam out of your right heel. Keep your breaths high octane, supportive of what you're doing. This is more physical, so bigger, deeper breaths are appropriate. And then we'll place the left hand and attempt to roll that left buttock under, kind of stack the right leg above for that kneeling version of a half moon pose. You might angle your left shin across your mat for a little more stability. And if you have the stability, then you might stack the top arm. Breathing well. Keeping that top leg long, just lower the inner foot to the mat. Wind your top arm so your palm faces your head side. And align your top arm biceps with your ear, creating a sort of side angle pose. We can really welcome the right side body to extend, to elongate. Good. Now we'll transition to thread the needle. So we'll be placing the right knee. We'll be sweeping the right arm through the space of the left limbs. The palm is up. You're going to rest on the right side of your head and slide your left hand forward until the arm is straight. Shifting weight to your right side and inviting those deeper breaths. Good. Stepping left hand in and bringing right arm out of position. So we're going to come through downward facing dog, which will bring us up to standing. So try to hold your downward dog for about 5 breaths if you can. Third time here. So it should feel a little more open, a little more welcome in the body. If not, that's okay too, of course. See if you can stay 3 more breaths. Hollowing the armpits, lengthening through the top of your head. And now you're going to begin to walk your hands toward your feet. Sometimes we do it the other way, where we walk the feet in. Walk your hands towards your feet until your feet become balanced. So that means you're not all in your toes anymore. Good. So you feel the heels and the ball mounds of your toes have equal weight. And if your hands don't make it to the floor easily, put them on your shins or your thighs. Okay, we don't always need blocks. We don't have them. So we're going to be in Ardha Uttanasana for a couple breaths. So again, if you're not touching the floor, or if you're grazing the floor without a lot of pressure, you want to have good pressure for your hands somewhere. Take them to your shins or your thighs. Look forward. And just focus on the feet becoming as balanced as you can make them. Not only front to back, but side to side. And plunge those shoulder blades in toward your chest. Try to spiral the inner upper arm flesh forward, which will help you spread the chest. And do your best to elongate the backs of the knees, even if they're still significantly bent. You can start to work toward a straighter knee. Okay. So we will go into full Uttanasana. If you'd like to put your blocks under your hands, you could do that. You might be able to bring your hands to the floor, but now you're going to have to either do blocks or floor because the legs aren't part of full Uttanasana. So we attempt to bring the hands eventually, and they might be on blocks, but eventually right outside the feet. So eventually your feet are together in this pose so that there's room for the hands. So you can work the feet a little closer if that's available to you. You can start to move your hands into kind of a parallel alignment with your feet. And those things might be far off in the future, so don't worry about it if it's not today. Be where you are. That's the whole message today. Be where you are and enjoy where you are. Okay, so we're still working toward a straighter leg, breath by breath. We're letting the head really surrender its full weight, the brain resting inside the skull. The spine in a singular curve, which is instantly quieting to the brain, puts us back in the in utero sensate experience where we didn't have words, we didn't have those constructs of language. We just physically experienced everything as sensory beings. Okay, come back through your Ardha Uttanasana. Your hands move forward. Your feet might separate out a little bit more. And then keep your stomach muscles strong to bring yourself up. So really engage your stomach muscles so that you feel your spine gets that support. That's important. And we're going to do Precipice Uttanasana today. So you can place both of your blocks tall. And if you have a wall right behind you, that can be a nice way to practice Precipice Uttanasana because it will help you keep your hips from swiveling, your pelvis from swiveling. So we do want to keep the pelvis in an even alignment. We don't want to rotate. So you think about in this pose, the torso shifting to the side rather than twisting, okay? So the torso is shifting to the side. So come back to Ardha Uttanasana with your blocks centered. And then you're going to take your blocks, they're still in front of your right foot, but they're kind of evenly placed to either side of the foot, in front of the foot. And then if your buttocks were or are against a wall, just try to create evenness. You don't have your right buttock pushing back, your left buttock pulling forward, okay? So we don't want to do that. Okay, so even the pelvis, look forward and grab a breath. And then exhale, try to align your chest with your right leg and come to your lowest block position and maybe closer to the inner and outer foot. So we know that the buttock of the leg we're facing tends to push back. So just bring a little emphasis into keeping a little bit of that pelvis shifting forward on the right side. Good. And now I'll come back to the concave or flat lumbar position. So that's Ardha, that's half. Bringing your blocks forward and up probably. And then kind of walk through the center and keep walking over to the left. And again, just kind of check out if you're swiveling your hips. If you don't know, you might back up to a wall, or you can look at yourself and you can kind of tell as well. Take a breath here, looking forward. And then on an exhale, lengthen toward your left leg. And bring the blocks lower and closer if that's available. Bowing the head completely. Working toward a straighter left leg. But also making sure you're honoring where you are. It's always a dance between complacency and over ambition. So we start to discern in this practice where that sweet spot is between boredom and stress. And that's really the edge we're talking about. There's enough going on. Don't need more, that would overwhelm us. Good. Now look forward, bring your blocks forward and probably higher. Come back to center with the blocks. And then engage your stomach muscles, maybe bend your knees a little bit and bring yourself up. Joining the legs and feet. If you need to keep space, you can. We're going to take mountain pose, just kind of center ourselves in an upright standing position. So starting at the feet, just making the connection with the earth a good one. Balanced feet, soft, expansive feet, attention to all the toe pads, the ball mounds, the heels. Firming your legs. So really hugging muscle onto bone. Contracting the quadriceps. Squeezing the quadriceps, lifting the kneecaps slightly. Plunging the tailbone into the front body and the soft tissue of the body. Keeping shoulders and skull slightly farther back than they like to be. And then finding those two directions, down through the feet, up through the crown. So we sense we don't end where the floor begins. We don't end where the top of the head is. We continue somehow. Lifting the pelvis, rib cage, and skull, but keeping the shoulders really settled toward the floor. Good. Okay, so we're going to come into a wide stance with the blocks. Starting with your feet wide, your toes in front of your heels. The blocks are going to be right in front of you, centered. Make sure that one of your own legs, in theory, could fit between your feet. So we want a nice amount of space. And then even though your feet are like they are, try to grow the distance between the big toe ball mounds and the small toe ball mounds. We don't want to bulldoze the pinky toe. We try to restore a sense of balance here, grabbing the floor with the big toes a little bit more. Take hold of your hips and try to bring the elbows in so they're only as wide as your shoulder distance width. They're not any wider. And take the thumbs and just kind of push in on the tailbone, which helps the tailbone move into the body. Lift your chest and look slightly up and compact your legs from front to back. Okay, so we want to memorize the feeling you have across the chest and try to maintain it as we come into a forward bend. So come to the top of an in-breath. And on an exhale, leading with your sternum, hinging at the hips, keeping the elbows squeezing close together, come forward, and then maintain the chest position as you move your hands onto your blocks. And you might need to change the height of the blocks, so pay attention to that. Look forward, grab a breath, and then exhale, bow deeply. You might not need the blocks here, just keep them available. We'll use them in a moment if you don't. And you're going to attempt to, one day, someday, move your fingertips into alignment with your toes. And just welcoming whatever the experience is here for you. Acknowledging we might have like a short circuit to kind of resist and to freeze. So just be a little bit softer, a little bit more curious, less demanding. The crown of the head is a magnet to the floor. The sitting bone's still curling up. And now you're going to look forward, and if you didn't have your blocks for that, go ahead and find them again. And we're going to be walking with the blocks to face the right end of the mat. So you're going to toe out with your right toes and toe in with your left toes. And you're going to bend your right knee so it's right on top of the right ankle. And you're going to have both blocks inside of your right foot. And you're going to place your hands on those blocks. So that means your right arm should be pinned up against the inner right leg. Okay, so again, grab a breath looking forward, and then exhale, you're just going to soften and bow. This means your head and your spine are kind of cascading down toward the floor. And you're mining that right hip space. You're kind of sinking, plunging that femur head into the hip socket, getting a nice relationship of a very low, kind of 90-degree knee. This is a good position. You're going to keep your right hand down, and you can firm up that right arm and really pin it to the right leg. You're staying inside the leg. Left hand to the left hip. Okay. Now squeezing right arm and leg together, start to turn your chest as well as you can to the right. Rolling that left buttock under, right buttock under, sorry. Good. And now to finish it off, we're going to be in side angle pose. So take the top arm, stack it up, and revolve the palm to face your head side. And then aligning your ear and your arm. So Mary, I think I told you to face the wrong way. So yeah, I think I said right when I meant left. So you're gonna just have your chest, facing the other way. So the hand that's down should be against your inner leg. That's better, Mary, perfect. Good. Okay. Now go ahead and bring your top arm down, and you're gonna walk yourself wide. You're gonna realign your toes in front of your heels. Come back to Prasarita so the wide standing forward bend you were just in. Make sure you have good setup with your feet, and you're going to come back to the position that was deepest for you. So hands as low as they go and as close to fingertips aligning with toes as you can, and elbows staying only as wide as shoulders, which maintains kind of an openness in your chest. And now begin to look forward, and you're going to move with those blocks again, this time to the left. And you're pivoting your left toes out, your right toes in. Both blocks will be inside of the left foot. And then you'll take your left knee above your left ankle. You're going to hold your left arm and leg together. They're working together. And you're just going to begin here bowing with your chest and your head and your spine is kind of cascading toward the floor. Feeling, sensing into the left hip space, left hip socket. There's resistance for a lot of us. Keep squeezing the left knee to the left shoulder. Feel the brain resting inside the skull, or imagine that just floating there passively. We're going to try to maintain how close you've brought your left shoulder to the left inner knee. So whatever that is, kind of squeeze it there, hold it there, and take your right hand onto your right hip. revolving your chest away from that bent knee side, which is where I kind of misled you before. I said the wrong thing. Turning your chest away from the bent knee side. Rolling the left buttock toward the front body. Rolling the top hip to align with the underneath hip. And then taking the top arm up. Revolving the arm to face left. And then moving the biceps in next to the ear. But also bring your ear next to your biceps, so it's not just your arm smashing your head. Bring your head to your arm as well. Good, these look nice. Taking another in breath, and on the exhale, you can turn back to face your blocks and grab those blocks. And one last time, walk yourself to center. And align the toes in front of the heels. Also make sure your big toes are on the same line, that you're not wonky. Sometimes we get wonky after a few transitions. But we're gonna take the blocks forward, which doesn't mean you should cling on your toes. Make sure you still have weight in your heels. And you're lengthening your arms away as if you're in a downward dog with wide feet. And your wrists are shoulder distance. Look forward, grab a breath. And then exhale, bow deeply, let the head pass through the arms. Feel how long the torso feels here. It's a very spacious version of Prasarita Padottanasana. And just a few more breaths. Start to lift your head and slide those blocks closer to you. And then walk your feet in until you're able to come up to standing. And once you're standing, just bring yourself back into Tadasana. Putting yourself back together again in that pose that your body really knows. Pose that we can kind of perfect our alignment by way of sensing. We can sense the imbalances that occur in the body, and we can start to bring more balance. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, and we're going to start to set up for just a few seated poses. And you can sit on a corner of your blanket. So we're going to be doing a few Upavishta Konasanas, the wide seated forward folds. And so you want to be on the corner of the blanket to support the tip of the tailbone. And hopefully you can have your sitting bones not on the blanket. So if you think about this three-prong connection with the floor, the tailbone is going to have the boost, and the sitting bones are going to be connected down. And then you'll open your legs wide so that kneecaps and toes point up. We all have little imbalances or differences with internal and external hip rotation. So some of us, our correction is to roll the toes in. Some of us, our correction is to roll the toes out. So whatever your correction is, toes above heels is really what we're looking for. And then try to squeeze the gap shut underneath the knees and also behind the ankles. Really press your legs into the floor. Good. Take the hands behind you so your palms face forward. Roll the shoulders back. And with the same amount of effort, you're really creating a lot of extension and buoyancy in the torso and a lot of kind of foundation and gravity in the legs. Good. So keeping the chest lifted and spread, inhale, raise the arms. Good. And exhale, turn to your right. And you're going to place your hands down to either side of the right leg and help yourself turn even more. And as you turn away from the left leg, we want to actually pay more attention to that leg because it's really our anchor for how far we're going to be able to go over the right leg. So pressing the left leg into the floor. Check out where your sternum is in relationship to your right leg. Do your best to align the two. Come to the top of an inhale, and on your exhale, you're gonna lead with your chest, still looking forward. We're in a flat or concave lumbar position here. And then anchoring into left leg, finish off Parshva Upavishta Konasana, allowing yourself to just kind of drape over the leg, but you're still continuing to line yourself up, chest with right leg. The hands can be useful here. You can help kind of keep the turning action going with a little strategic pressure in your hands. Try to keep your shoulders level. We don't want right shoulder dipping. We don't want left shoulder flying up. Try to keep your shoulders level. And if you aren't sure what your left leg is doing, take a peek. Make sure it's still on duty. It hasn't checked out. And now you're going to keep yourself low and creep yourself to the middle space. Creep yourself to the middle space with your arms extended. And then walking the hands in so your spine comes up again. Good. So go back to pressing your hands down behind you, getting the chest to lift and spread, anchoring into your legs. And then keep the foundation you have in the legs, stretch your arms up, bringing a sense of kind of upward energy to the trunk. And then turning to face left leg, bring your hands down. And really refining that alignment with the chest and the leg. Keep turning really well here. Paying special attention to the right leg, squeezing to the floor. Come to the top of an in-breath. And then leading with your chest, consider the lumbar. We want to keep it flat or concave still. We don't want to round yet. We want to really find our edge with integrity here. You're going to eventually find a stopping point in your body. That's your enough point. And then finish it off with a nice bow. Still working into the right leg. Continuing to align the chest and shoulders. And maybe sensing a little bit of an opening opportunity happening in the lower right back. After an exhalation, you can look forward again, and we're going to keep ourselves low with the torso, but we're going to creep our hands back to center. Scrub your hands toward yourself. So that doesn't mean the hands move. You're just kind of dragging them on the floor a little bit and bring your chest forward. And then finish it off. See if you can bow to the floor. And go ahead and inhale to come up. Let's bring each leg back to center, one at a time. And you can slide forward off of your blanket and just turn it so that you'll be on the edge. If you have a second blanket, you might want it for Janu Shirshasana, head of the knee pose. Also keep a block. And once you're sitting perched on that blanket, it should just be the sitting bones right at the edge. And you want to kind of lift the flesh out from under you, not only to get the sitting bones to come down more, but to get a little bit more purchase on the blanket, a little bit more spreading. And from Dandasana, sitting up tall, we're going to be inviting the right leg in first. You can take your 8 fingers inside the right knee. Keep the knee low and drag the heel up toward the upper inner thigh. And then if you see that the knee is floating, you're going to prop the knee with a blanket. Okay, so we want to feel an extension from the root of the right thigh out through the inner right knee. You want the right knee to move out, but also down. So this is your anchor here, this right leg. Raise the arms and attempt to align the sternum with the left leg. And then working from the anchor, really keeping that a strong action in your right leg. You're going to lengthen forward so that you don't see your arms and your peripheral vision. You're leading with the chest again. You're not leading with your eyeballs or your chin. Your chest should be what you see, and you shouldn't see arms and peripheral vision. If you do, you can open up letter V or do a goal post. Okay. And now finish it off, carrying that extension forward, maybe grabbing your foot, maybe taking the hands to the floor, maybe grabbing a strap. Make it your own. So you're coming right up to your edge, and you're just going to exist for the next 5 or 6 breaths. Moving the direction of the left heel toward the left hip socket, which propels the chest to extend across that left leg. And now you're going to find your block and place it inside the left leg somewhere. It could be alongside the calf muscle, alongside the knee, even up toward the thigh. This is different for everybody. You also have levels of block you can choose to work with. So you're going to be grounding your forearm, the left forearm, alongside the inner leg somewhere on top of whatever amount of height you've determined. Press down with your right hand on your right knee, just kind of reaffirming those actions. We want that leg to be really anchored, and also use that pressing to help you start to turn your chest to the right. You might feel kind of squashed along the left side body, so make it your goal to restore space to the left side body. And then you're going to move your right hand to the back of the head and take the elbow tip up and back to continue that really nice, spacious revolving of the spine. Come to the top of an in-breath, and then start to turn back toward the left leg and come back to Janu Shirshasana, whatever that edge was. You might even go beyond it this time, second time around. But find that next edge, 5 breaths. And after an exhalation, inhale, lift yourself up. Stand up your right knee and extend your right leg. Coming back to your Dandasana, you might pull the flesh out from under you again. Take a moment to sit up tall. And then you'll use both hands to the inner left knee, which helps move that kind of cord away from the inner knee. It helps soften there. We can bring the heel in a little closer with that maneuver. And then again, prop the knee if you see some space, some floating of the knee. You're going to prop it so that you really feel anchored. And then raising the arms. Lifting your torso up this way with your arms. And then leading with your chest. We don't want the arms to show up in our side mirrors, so keep leading with your chest. There will be an edge, there will be a point where your body is not going to go any farther. At that point, carry that length forward and find a position for your hands. Could be to the strap, to the foot, to the floor. So one day, someday it's head to knee pose. The head is on the knee. As you stare down at the right leg, keep a lot of attention in your left leg, working for you, anchoring down. See if you can pull that right heel toward the hip rather than push it away. Then we're going to prop the block inside the right leg for revolving head to knee pose. We'll prop the right forearm with your palm face up. And we'll take the left hand to the left knee or thigh and push down there. And just start to turn your chest, the chest that was just facing the right leg, attempting to get the back body to face the leg one day, someday. And once you have that, a nice amount of pressure is staying down in that left leg, take your hand to the back of the head, lift up through that elbow tip, helping kind of sink that shoulder blade, that left shoulder blade toward the chest. And try to restore a sense of length to the right side body here, from the hip crest all the way up to the armpit. This mobility here is going to really lend itself to our second attempt at head to knee pose. So take another big in breath. And then on your exhale, turn back to face the right leg. Come back to that physical edge where you're right between complacency and suffering, and just be there, 5 breaths. Begin to walk your hands in, lift yourself up, standing up the left knee, extend the left leg. Maybe give your legs a little bounce or a shake. And we're gonna finish with upward facing Paschimottanasana. So you can stack a couple of blankets. If you don't have 2, 1, you can get by with 1. And the blankets they're narrow, they're not huge. They're mostly just for the sacrum. And then you're gonna try to lie down on them so that your lower back is getting the elevation. And then you can reach your arms overhead with your palms facing up, extending out through your fingernails. Start to raise the legs one at a time. And as you let your thighs fall toward your chest, try not to uproot the lower part of your sacrum. So it's not just that we're just trying to roll the sacrum off the blanket. You're resisting the lower sacrum down as you hug your thighs toward you. Chin snuggles into the chest. And then attempt to extend your legs as much as you can. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but letting the weight of the legs continue to fall toward the upper body as you keep the lower ridge of the sacrum down. You might close your eyes. Keep extending out through your fingertips. And with each passing exhale, just notice how there's more depth. We can close the gaps a little bit more. We have gravity helping us do that. Even though the thighs are coming closer to the chest, we actually want to continue pressing the thighs gently from front to back, as if the backs of your thighs are absorbing the fronts of your thighs. And keep your gaze, even if your eyes are closed, keep your gaze pointed down toward your cheeks. Go ahead and start to bend your knees and take hold of your shins with your hands. Taking a few moments in this reclining elevated child's pose. And then you can lower your feet. And you can raise your hips and slide your blankets out from under you. You might place one of them under your head if you need it. But step your feet wide and leave your hands on your belly. Your knees are going to float to the right as your head rolls to the left. And just hang out for a few breaths right here. We're not going to move the windshield wiper very fast today. Just take a few breaths here with your head to the left and your knees to the right. And then starting to move your head to the right and your knees to the left. But do keep your feet wide. You'll be on your inner and outer feet. Keep the feet wide. And then you might do a few just gently with each breath, exhaling to the side, inhaling to the center. Just giving your spine a little massage here, a little wringing out. And then you're going to just kind of listen into the body and see if there's anything else that needs to move or shift or be addressed before final resting pose. And getting your setup ready for that final resting pose, Shavasana. Any props you need to keep you comfortable and warm, and keep the eyes quiet. Settling into that fully reclined position, giving the feet a little bit more width between them than the hips have. Extending the arms about 45 degrees from the torso. Make sure to rock your head back and forth a few times to encourage the neck to elongate. You might need to prop your head if your chin continues to kind of poke up to the ceiling. Take a moment to turn the palms up and help the arms sit down, the shoulders sit down. Softening your eyes and looking toward your cheeks once again, toward your heart. Letting all the effort of this practice fall away. Just arriving into a residue of awareness left behind by our efforts. And how this practice does help us cultivate a kind of a safer feeling to be present, a more grounded, calm, and quiet presence. And if the mind is really still very active, sometimes more practice is needed. But usually we do feel some effects. Reminding ourselves that we are enough, we have enough, we do enough. Whatever else happens, it's extra. Try to smooth out any hardness or rigidity in the face. Free the jaw. If your jaw is kind of clamped or set, soften the jaw. Soften the belly if there's any constriction. Let your leg muscles release from the bones now. Breathing space into your feet. I'm just taking a few breaths, imagining your breath as a wheel. So you're going to breathe up from the feet, over the front body toward the crown. And as you breathe out, you're going to breathe from the crown to the feet, but underneath your body, as if you're going under the floor, a little semicircle, back up to the feet. Just an orbit of breath. Again, inhaling from the feet, over the body, all the way to the crown. And then exhale A little cradle beneath you from the head to the feet going into the floor. Finding your way back to breath that breathes you. Start to just rub your fingertips across your thumbs. Maybe making fists with your hands and then extending your fingers. Maybe starting to wiggle your toes or make little fists with your toes and your feet and then extend your toes. Taking your hands onto your belly. Sliding your feet onto the floor by bending your knees. And help yourself ease over to one side and just rest on your side for a few moments. You might use your hands as a pillow. You might open your eyes here, you might not. Just be slow and gentle. And when you're ready to sit up, use your hands against the floor, pressing down to bring yourself up. Let your head come up last. And then putting yourself in an upright seated position with the spine tall, supporting the brain. Bringing the hands together in front of the heart. There's a mantra in yoga, soham, and simply, I am, period. Nothing after the am. So maybe let this be your mantra today, I am, period. Soham. So let's take a breath in, thinking the word so, and a breath out in the mind, stating hum. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Thank you all for being here. Karen will be here on Friday. I have a back-to-back closing Friday morning at 8, of course. So Karen will be here Friday with us, and she's wonderful. If you haven't met Karen, she's absolutely wonderful. She'll do the forward bending theme that we're sticking with. So I'll be back with you guys on Monday. Thank you.